All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this broadcast. So, let me hide this so I can see me. Okay. So, today we're going to be talking about FishEye Crucible and, in particular, what's new with the 3.4 release and have a little demo of that. But on top of this, something that I'd like to talk about is a little bit of background about what we've been doing in the past year with FishEye Crucible and explain you also, where we're at when you want to compare FishEye Crucible and Stash, for instance. So before we get started, let me just give you a little bit of background about myself. So I'm a product manager in Atlassian. I've been in the company for about 3 years. So I worked on FishEye Crucible, on Stash, on Bamboo. So I've looked into a little bit all of the dev tools. Um, this is a bit annoying. So I'm specialized in the dev tools. I also have been involved in the project that are linking Jira and the dev tools together. So I can give you quite an overview of everything that we've been working on. So if you have some questions, don't hesitate to leave the questions via GoToMeeting, and we'll address them at the end of this webinar. Um, so as I said, the agenda will cover what Atlassian looks like today and what FishEye Crucible is about. But we'll also look into FishEye Crucible and Stash, because we know that when we introduced Stash a couple of years ago, people were a bit confused as to which offer was doing what and which one was the best for them. Then we'll look into the new things that we added in FishEye 3.4, the latest release that we have, and I'll do a live demo of some of the features that I'll be talking about. So, where is Atlassian at today? So, the company, as many know, has been started around 12 years ago by two guys, Mike and Scott, in the garage. But now we have 300 developers today that are part of the company. So it's quite a growth for us. But we not only have developers, we also have a lot of people that are helping us on a day-to-day basis to deliver awesome software. And so we're almost 800 the last time I checked. I think we're getting very close to that number. And so we understand, the issues that growing teams have. And so we can actually cover the whole spectrum of like small teams to large ones because we have some experience there. So those almost 800 people are spread around, are working across 9 different products. So we have like 3 different departments where we have Jira as a platform, Confluence for collaboration, and the dev tools. And so all those teams are spread across 4 locations. So when it comes down to 4 different continents, it's more than actually 4 locations, because we have like in the States offices in San Francisco, in Austin, for instance. So when it comes down to collaboration over a distributed environment, this is something that we're familiar with, and this is how we try to improve our products so that they can fit better for the teams that have like people spread across the world. Um, Now I'd like to tell the story of FishEye Crucible regarding that picture. I've been little story. I've been on the road for the past 10 days. I've done some. I've been to some conferences that were organized in Zurich and Berlin, and some people came to me and asked me where FishEye Crucible was going today, because maybe we're not making the headlines anymore, but like we're definitely putting a lot of effort into the products. So what it looks like, it's we have a team of 12 developers that are dedicated to FishEye Crucible, and this team is actually spread across like two different countries in Australia and Poland. And what we want to do is to maintain the rhythm of having one release per quarter. So this is just the first thing that I want to say for the people that are maybe thinking that there's not much happening there. We are definitely investing, and that's my job actually, to like move the product forward. There's a lot of exciting things that we've been working on, and this is something that I'd like to cover during this webinar. Um, so if I want to show you the roadmap, this is actually something that we can't do it. So that's just to prepare you if you have some questions around exactly what we want to do. So we always have people asking us what exactly or when exactly things are going to ship. And I just want to take some time to explain why we don't disclose a roadmap. It's mainly, it's not to protect us as much as to protect yourself, because if we were to commit to, let's say, uh, a project on the roadmap, and then you communicate this date internally, and we happen to push back for different reasons. It can be that some priorities changed, or the development happened to be more complex than what we wanted to do. If we change our deadlines and you communicated those deadlines to your own customers, then you can be in trouble for that. And this is something that we want to avoid. So uh, you will never see someone from Atlassian disclosing a public roadmap. But what we can talk about, and what I want to be giving you, is an idea of the things that we want to work on. And so in the team, we define a core set of values that are different for FishEye Crucible than our product, because we have different priorities. And the roadmap is driven by those values. So the first one that we have today is the integration. So what I mean by integration here is everything that can help people having other Atlassian tools to have an awesome experience. So if you have Jira, for instance, you want to have your issues somewhere, but you want to be able to see all the code that is linked to your issues in a great way. You want also to be able to see the reviews linked to your issues without having to jump between the tools. Integration is also for us about integration with your own systems. So we work on extending the APIs so that if you have to manage a large set of repositories or user groups, projects, that you can actually build your own script to automate that. The second value that we have is performance. So in the past 12 months, we did some drastic changes in the architecture of FishEye to support better SVNs, indexing, and we just released with 3.4 like some really good improvements on the Git indexing. And this is something that for us, for FishEye, which has been around for 10 years, we know that we have some customers that have been with us for a long time, and the code base is not going to stop growing. So we need to support the needs. And investing in performance is a continuous effort for us. And in each release that we do, every quarter, as I said, in each release, we want to add something that will make the product faster from an indexing perspective, but also from a browsing perspective. The last one is the experience. So we know that it's people living, for instance, doing code reviews on a daily basis, and we want people to feel good when they do that. We want them to not have to not be feeling constrained by the interface. If people love the products, then the work seems less painful. Like things are better done. People become more productive. So the overall experience is something that we don't want to forget. And talking about experience is not just the experience of using FishEye and Crucible by themselves, but it's also how they fit into the whole Atlassian platform, and so bringing all the products in line with each other. So once again, those are the three values that are driving our roadmap: integration, performance, and experience. Some examples of integration, as I said, a lot of it is about providing a better synergy between Jira and FishEye Crucible. So we have a new development panel. Some of those things, by the way, I will be shown in the demo, but I just want to brush over things. And so the new Jira issue dialog also allows you to see more details about your issue and to move your issue in a different state. If you, for instance, see that something should be in review when it's an issue should be in review while you're actually working on your code review, you can change that status without having to go back to Jira. Inline issue creation is something that we introduced in Crucible to help you to create issues directly from the comments that you leave on a review. We just brought in a stash connector for the people that are on like a hybrid environment and that want to see their Git repository from Stash instead of FishEye. We made it really, really easy to add those repository in one click. And I mentioned already the admin APIs that we extended. Some example of performance, I talked about it. The Subversion and Git indexing have been changed a lot so that we can make those things way optimize those processes a lot. But we also improved the activity stream browsing. A lot of the browsing browsing experience that happens in the tool, and the search as well in the past releases. When it comes to experience, well, for now, I would say that the developer dashboard has been introduced like around like 8 to 9 months ago. So this is like bringing the idea for us was to really let developers see what they need to do when they log into FishEye Crucible. So we put the reviews on top of things that you have to do. We also optimize the headers to get in line with Stash and put a um, uh, full screen mode so that when you perform your review or look at a chance that you have as much real estate in your screen as possible. The commit graph highlighter is something that I'd love to also talk about because honestly, I really love the commit graph. I think it's a very, very easy way to visualize the code and use it. So as I said before, I know that some people were a bit confused by the differences between FishEye, Crucible, and Stash. And some people that I talked to during my trip were asking me if some of the features, so if we intended to merge the products together. So the answer is no, we're not going to merge FishEye, Crucible, and Stash. We're going to keep them as separate products. So the way I like to explain it to people is quite simple. It starts with Git, and we're seeing a lot of people migrating to Git. And so basically, we're saying that if you only have Git, what you need to get is Stash. And you should get going with it and then try to do as much as you can with Stash without having to look into another product. And Stash is our Git hosting platform, by the way, for those who don't know that. And if you're having other SCMs like Subversion, Mercurial, or Perforce, or if you have a combination of those four SCMs on your platform, then this is where FishEye and Crucible comes in handy because they allow you to track your code, they allow you to create reviews, and to have this traceability between the issues in Jira and the code and the changes that you do. And you can have a better quality with those products. So as I said, if you have Git only, then get Stash, and if you have a mix, then you can get FishEye and Crucible. So the exception with the Git only thing is with Stash and Stash hosting platform is that um, the search, the commit graph, or the advanced review features like time tracking or per changeset review, moderator roles, those things are going to stay for now. They're in FishEye and Crucible. So if you wanted to get those features on top of your Git repositories, then this would be a reason for you to get FishEye and Crucible. But our role in Atlassian is not to try to sell you as many products as possible. What we want you to have is the right tool at the right time. So to sum it up, this is exactly what I said. So get Stash if you're Git only, get FishEye Crucible for other CMs, and you can add FishEye Crucible to Stash if you have more elaborated needs around your Git repositories. So now let's talk a little bit about the free for. So I'm going to talk about the main stories that we have, and then after that, like I'll switch onto a demo to show you the things that you can do in the products. So one of the first things, as I said, in the integration story is that Stash integration. So we have a connector that will allow you to basically in one click add repositories from Stash within FishEye Crucible. So the idea behind that is that you don't need anymore to copy paste your URLs or to put your admin password. You only need to have an application link between your FishEye Crucible instance and your Stash instance. And as soon as this is done, then you can start adding your repository. Or if your repositories have already been added, they will be displayed as added within your FishEye Crucible instance. Another thing that I mentioned was the Git indexing performance. So we had a lot of improvements, as you can see. So the green bar is what was the performance that we had in FishEye Crucible 3.3, and the blue is the performance that we observed in FishEye Crucible 3.4. And so the optimization was both around the indexing time. So when you add a repository for the first time, things are much faster to get a repo and to be able to like browse the code and create reviews. But it's also when you add new branches in your repository. Previously, it was quite an expensive task for FishEye to be able to digest new branches, and now this is an operation which is much, much, much faster, as you can see on the graph. When it comes down to experience, that's what I was talking about. So here it's hard without having the live demo to understand the experience that you would get, but this is kind of like the real estate that you would get on the screen. Your full screen view will look like that, and it will be basically giving you as much space as possible for you to perform a review. Or in the case of a change set, the view will be similar and you will be able to see as much code as possible. We also have a Windows installer, so that is going to help a lot of people that are trying to configure, set up FishEye Crucible as a Windows service. So you can download it from the Atlassian.com website, and when you're done, you just have to basically follow the instruction. And at the end of it, the installer will configure FishEye and Crucible as a Windows service that will start in a clean way, stop and start in a clean way when you reboot your machine. So this should be quite helpful for the people that are using it with Windows. So now, without further ado, I'd like to proceed to the demo of some of the things that I talked about. So here, I just logged into my FishEye Crucible instance, where you can see what I was talking about. So the dashboard that I was talking about shows here that I don't have any pending review, and this is something that we're going to look at if we can change that view at some point. I can see the list of commits here. If I want, I can switch to see the list of review or see both at the same time. So now I'm going to basically look at a change set, and show you that thing that I was talking about. So we change those headers to be more in line with Stash. And now if I use my keyboard shortcut, so J and K, to navigate through the files, um, you'll see that automatically I get into this full screen mode that gives me as much real estate as possible for my reviews. So if I scroll up and down, I have a natural scroll, and as soon as I hit the top here, then it stops, and then basically my file keeps scrolling, but not the rest of my screen. So that's very convenient when you're actually doing your, like, looking at the changeset, or if you want to do a review. So if I wanted to show you what it looks like in a review, it's a little bit the same, and you have this nice scrolling that happens automatically, and here is the same thing. So we listen to the feedback of customers, because when you're in that view, obviously that header can look a little bit big, but what is important here for us is to have a lot of clarity. If I want to see the people involved in that review, I can quickly have a glance on the right side of the screen and see that people, or see who is involved in that review. And same thing, if I go on the left side, then I can look at my issue and see the status of the review as well. We implemented as well some shortcuts to facilitate doing actions with a review. So if I hit dot here, then I can find review actions, and I just have to type something to be able to, like, execute on one of these actions. Oh, sorry, I have to log in. So now I just, you can see me here, like I just joined as a new reviewer, and I can also, I'll take this opportunity to show you that new issue dialog that I was talking about. So if you look at this dialog, basically you can see the status of the review, you can see the assignee, and you can basically here, like, um, transition the issues in different statuses. So the good thing is, if our transition like this, if a transition cannot be executed, instead of just simply failing, we send you straight forward to Jira to be able to execute on that review, to be able to transition that issue in the proper status. So that can happen when you have a workflow that requires to provide some information that is not available in that issue dialog. Now that I'm in Jira, I can show you more things around the dev panel that we were talking about. Here, like, you actually can see the old way of displaying that information, where it was a bit verbose and hard to understand how many commits were included into that issue. And now we have a simple panel here on the right side that tells me how many commits are there, how many branches, and how many reviews are involved. So I can just, if I want to, I can just click to see more details. So I can see the repository here, the branch name, the last commit that is involved, and it's the same for the commits. You will be able to see the repository. You will also see there in review or not the branch information right here, and I can expand the files if I need to be able to see what files have been modified. I can create a review here for this commit, or you can also create a review for all commits, just like before. And looking at the review, we also have a better view here with this panel that shows you at a glance, the status of things, how many comments are on the review, and you can obviously go back to the review that we were talking about. So now, talking more, like taking you through more of the integrations that we have. Let's say that I want to turn this comment into an issue for Kevin Campbell. This is a nice integration that we have with Jira. You can just simply click on create issue from your comment, and then you can say you can leave you can actually create a task for someone out of a review without having to go to Jira. As soon as you create it, then this issue is attached to the comment, and you will also find it in the issues raised from comment in the detail of your review. If you go back to the issue itself, you will see a link to it directly from the issue so that you can go back and forth between your review. In this case, for instance, I can show you that here I could, for instance, progress my issue directly to say that, okay, I'm starting to work on this. One of the things that I like to show you now is how to add the stash connector that allows you to add your stash repository inside of FishEye. So I'm just going to go to the administration, and with FishEye Crucible 3.4, the new thing that we've added is this stash repository tab. So this will, as soon as you get, you create an application link between your stash instance and your FishEye Crucible instance, you will be able to see that panel, which is going to list all the repositories that are available in your stash instance and show you the ones that are added and the ones that are not added. So to explain again how people had to do this kind of thing before, they had to select the repository type, my repo, then put the repository location, the path, and choose the authentication. And we've simplified that by simply making it as simple as just clicking on the add button. Now my repository from Stash has actually been added to my FishEye Crucible instance. I can manage it now just like any other repository that is indexed in FishEye, and I can see that here, that's the actual URL of my repository. If I want to browse my repository, I can see that my repository has been indexed, and I can use it just like any other repository that exists in FishEye. This link, gets me now to the last bit that I wanted to show you, the commit graph and the different options that we have here. So some of you might be already familiar with those options in the commit graph. So just to say again what the commit graph is. The commit graph is a visual representation of the changes that happen in your repository. So you can select the branches that you want to display. You can remove some branches. You can add some. And you can also use different filter to highlight the changes that have been made. For instance, if I select Jira issue and I select this one, TRS69, I will highlight all the issues that are the same in the graph. I'll take a graph. Take this one. So I'll do it again here. You have more issues, so it might be more interesting. So I'm going to take this AOE 1602, and then I can scroll through the graph and then see all the commits that are related to the same issue. If I wanted to see all the changesets in review and have a sense of the quality of my my code, I can do this, and I can basically see here in red all the changesets that don't have any review attached to it, and in orange one with a review which is not completed. And if a review had been completed against that changeset, that dot would be green. The one that I believe is the one highlighter that I wanted to show you was actually the search, which can be practical if you want to see in the graph something related to a particular keynote or particular commit message. So I know that someone worked on a changeset related to AOE, and I want to find it. So I just have to uh, type in the search box the terms that I want to search for, and the graph will highlight the commits that are corresponding to this. So those are the things that FishEye is capable of doing and helping you to really dig into the code and find elements that would be like harder to think of, that would require more like command line work to do the same. I'd like now to so this is so now getting back actually to my dashboard, I can see the reviews that I joined. So this is it's something that I have to review, and it's something, as I said, that we want to give to developers so that when they log in, they can see the outstanding work that they have to do. I think that I showed gave a good overview of those things that happen in FishEye. So I'm going to now take some questions, and all right. So some people seem to have some issues with the sound. There is audio over the web, I believe. Okay, so can FishEye be configured to exclude the binary files in Mercurial repository when applying hd command to retrieve revision information? FishEye itself is relying on the ignore files that are put into the SCMs. So we do not skip files per se, but we can skip some revisions if required. But you will need to exclude the binary files from the repository. Our experience on FishEye 3.1.2 installation was not good. The FishEye 3.4 installation improved that aspect. So this is something. This is something that we work on all the time. So I know that the FishEye installation experience differs a bit from the other Atlassian tools in the sense that the FishEye inst directory is a bit of it's a different experience. By default, if you want to do an evaluation, the good thing about FishEye is that you don't have to do any configuration of home directory. You can just start it, and then it will launch. We want to improve that thing, but we haven't done anything specific in that regard. So maybe you had like an issue with some upgrade tasks, but there's nothing. I haven't heard like many issues with that 3.1.2 with a 3.4 sorry installation. But if you do have some issues, please just contact our support team at support.atlassian.com, and they should be able to help you. 12 devs for all Atlassian products, or just Crucible and FishEye? No, it's 300, around 300 or more devs for all Atlassian products, and it's 12 solely for FishEye and Crucible. So the size of the teams in the different Atlassian products varies a lot, but that's a reasonable size for us. Is there a plan that allows admin to disable FishEye users instead of delete? The reason is to keep user history even if that person leaves the company. So that we don't have a direct plan to do this. It's a good feedback for us, and I'll take this feedback into account and then see if we can put it somewhere on the roadmap. I think that something that we want to definitely keep is a possibility to track to have a good audit trace inside of a product and to help people understand who did what. So um, we do have uh, yeah, we do have plans to do this type of thing, but specifically this feature, like we don't have it in the pipe at the moment. So are there been any specific optimizations for perforce? Not at the moment. We focused on the on Subversion and Git because there were the products, the most popular VCS that we had, and so it was generating some requests on our side, and so we wanted to answer um, those requests. We don't have, like, I want to be honest, and we don't have a specific plan for Perforce at the moment. And what we're trying to do is more toward the second part of that question. We want to improve the things across all the SCMs now and focus more on having browsing and basically like different strategies around activity streams and reporting so that we can optimize the performance of of Figure for FishEye Crucible for all the SCMs and not just one or two. Being part of a financial company, we need to track all code reviews we do. Is there any thoughts in this direction for Crucible? That's an interesting, that's a very good question. I guess that now with the APIs, you could um, build some, you can probably build some scripts that will prevent issues from being transitions if they don't have a review next to it. Or if I'm not mistaken, so I'm not sure that I get exactly what you mean by we need to track all code reviews we do. I know that for some financial company, it's important to have reviews for every changes which is committed. So that's what I'm talking about. To make sure that all commits have reviews is something that could be potentially implemented via scripts and tracking all the code reviews. You can also use the Crucible API to list all the reviews that are in your system and act upon it, like put it on the dashboard or put it through a system and be able to basically make sure that you're in the right state. Can two versions of FishEye, Crucible FishEye run on the same server? You can do that. You will probably have to you will have to put them on different ports. Um, any recommendation on how to proceed with upgrade? I guess that the first recommendation is obviously to have a backup before you do anything. Uh, so I was talking about the installation before and the inst directory being a bit different. But so as soon as you get into a prod environment, we recommend to separate the data from the application directory. And as soon as you have that, the upgrade process should be simpler, meaning that you would only have to replace the application directory, obviously after you do your backup, and restart FishEye Crucible again. If some upgrade tasks are required during the upgrade, we generally put some notice in the command line, and you will just be informed of the actions that you have to do to proceed to the upgrade. But we're trying to make that upgrade way easier. So that's good feedback for us. Are the fields available when viewing Jira from Figure customizable? So we do have very some limits around the fields that you can see. Basically, it's a lot about some custom fields that are in Jira and that are hard to replicate in another product. But we try to support as many fields as possible. So we'll try to support the configuration of your workflow configuration, and then FishEye, like the dialog, will display automatically the fields that are required without you having to set anything. So we want to minimize the configuration that is required for that. To make it up, to sum it up, if you do use fields that are supported in your workflow and they are required when you do a transition, then FishEye is going to display those fields. Which version of Jira is being used for the demos? Can, 6.2 is a version used. Glad to know that you have finally has installer for FishEye. We are running FishEye 3.3.1 and the instruction on how to do FishEye Crucible upgrade from 3.3. So if you want to do that installation, I would recommend in your case to probably contact support@atlassian.com or support team. I wouldn't want to give you the wrong process here. I know more, like, so I'm missing a bit of information. I know more about the install process and the upgrade process from Windows, but I'm sure the team will have some responses for you. How to create inline issue creation with mandatory custom fields. So it's the same as the Jira dialog. We can customize some fields. You can set some mandatory fields in there, and we will support. We try to support as many fields as possible, and if they're mandatory, then they will appear directly in the dialog. So that's a process which is automated. In the case we wouldn't be able to support that, then we will display a message asking the user to go to Jira to create that issue to simplify the process. Would you use FishEye with Stash? If not, why? So I would use FishEye with Stash for search, for the commit graph as well, for reporting, and that's the use cases that I have in mind. Stash covers a lot of the use case that people can be requiring with Git. So as I said before, I don't want to sound like I'm trying to oversell something to you, and it depends on really what your needs are. And if you do those things that I just said before, then yeah, it might be useful for you to have this. In the case of Crucible, it can be interesting to have Crucible if you wanted to do per changeset review, meaning that if you're not relying exclusively on pull requests, then you could pick a set of commits that you want to review independently and create a review for that. You also have a review coverage report, which can come in handy. But so this is what I was saying previously in the webinar, that Stash basically can get Crucible as a complement if you have advanced need for code reviews. And the same for FishEye would be like for things that like search or in like everything that relies on indexing, basically. As an admin, how do you allow users to create a Jira issue from a Crucible review comment? So that works with the permissions that they have in Jira. If they have permissions to create issues in a Jira project, then it's as simple as that. We don't want to. Um, so it's basically mapped on the permissions that they would have naturally. They can comment and they can create issues, then everything should work for them. Log statistics, are they still unavailable for Git repositories? And if so, can I explain why? So yes, they're still unavailable, and the reason is that, as you could see, like the cost of indexing uh, Git, like the way Git is storing the information and the way Git works makes it really hard to basically store and calculate the log data for Git, and it's simpler in Subversion in that regards. So we have plans to review that type of reporting. And basically, what we want to change is maybe to not rely on log, but try to find another metrics that can give people a sense of activity on a repository. So we're actually actively talking to customers and to figure out what are the needs. And what we want to do is to find something that will allow us to give across all types of SCM reporting around how basically a baseline of the activity of a team and helping you to understand whether or not things are going better or worse when you look at the graph. So basically, we're looking for a workaround for this problem instead of having only a solution for Subversion and CVS. Okay. Are there plans to add commit graphs to Stash? So once again, I cannot really disclose a roadmap, but you can. It's There are plans to bring the best of FishEye and Crucible to Stash if it's missing. So if commit graph is one of those features, then it should get eventually in Stash. I know it's a bit of a cop-out as a response, but that's kind of like I can provide you better information than that. Yes, so is the Jira feature integration with Git also available with Subversion? Yes, it is. I'm sorry, it's for the sake of a webinar. I just like set up a Stash instance because it was easier. But all the things that you just saw with Jira and FishEye works absolutely with Subversion, and also would work with Perforce and Mercurial. Yeah, I talked about the Perforce indexing. So any improvements to Perforce indexing. We don't want to do specific index improvements for Perforce at the moment, but we do want to work on improvements that will impact all SCMs. So you should see some improvements in the future. I can't tell you by how much or in which area. We have to make our choices and assess our priorities. But yeah, this is a strategy that we have moving forward. Is it possible to create reviews as diffs between branches? We do a code review based on pull requests, but cannot find an easy way to create Crucible reviews for this. In this case, I presume that you're using Git, and so I would suggest to use Stash for this. I will suppose that from your comment that you might not be using Stash. Otherwise, if you do, then you have pull requests inside of Stash that can be fulfilling that need. This is not something that we have planned at the moment in FishEye and Crucible due to the fact that it's mostly a Git workflow, and Stash is the candidate for that. If we are using both Git and Perforce, should we focus on just using Crucible and FishEye, or Crucible FishEye integrated with Stash? So I would say that for Git, if you're looking for a hosting platform, really, I would look into Stash because it will basically host your code in a native way and give you a really good features to manage your permission access. Um, you can set up branch permissions on your Git repository. So even before the whole review, uh, before tackling the issues that you can have around reviews, it's a great platform to manage your Git repositories. And then at some point, if you're using Git, then I believe that you will have the need for pull requests and this type of workflows, and Stash will be a better candidate for that. But you can keep FishEye and Crucible around for Git if you have the needs that I described before. Meaning, in the case of code review, if you want to do purchase set reviews, or if you want to have better reporting and better workflows around your reviews. In the case of Perforce, I would suggest you keep FishEye and Crucible around for that. We're not using crowd for all of our Atlassian products. Does this affect application links? We're seeing messages that users must be authenticated between products, and the integration is not happening automatically. I would suggest I would ask you to contact our support team at support@atlassian.com for that. If you have, for instance, a Jira instance, you can basically designate that Jira instance as being the user directory for FishEye Crucible, and it should solve some of those problems. But you might be in a specific situations and a specific situation, and our team should be able to help you with that. I'll take 5 more questions. So is the review tied to a single changeset, or multiple changesets can be in a single review? You can absolutely add multiple changeset in a single review. Can we do an in-place upgrade from 3.3 to 3.4 using the Windows installer? I think that you will have to do some manipulation outside of the Windows installer to be able to do that upgrade. But I'm sure that there's a workaround where you can do the installer and then separately, and then move your data and then start FishEye to simplify things. But I would suggest you contact support for that as well. Will FishEye connect to on-demand Jira? Yeah, I believe it's possible for you to create an app link with your on-demand instance. Is there a summary of what Crucible and FishEye provide over Stash, since it is for advanced users? Yeah, so I think I tried to cover as much as possible on this. There's a question, I can try to find it right now. There's post on answers. I think you can probably see my screen. If you search for, I think that's the proper one. This should be helpful, basically. This post on answer can explain the difference between FishEye and Stash, and in which case you want to use one, and in which case you want to add FishEye on top of Stash. I'll take one last question. If you have hosted Stash, FishEye, Crucible, and on-demand Jira config, I'm not sure I understand that question. I use planning support to support ClearCase. We removed support for that, so we don't have any plan to support um, ClearCase. No. And I'll take that one last question. We have many projects in Stash and many repos in each project. How does new Stash connector let me find those, pick and choose the projects that show up and its repos? So the Stash connector will list all the repositories regardless of the repositories of the projects they're in. So you will see one list of repositories, and we have a nice, basically, you can filter the name of the repository by like that, basically to find the repository that you need, and then you can just add them one by one. We also have extended the repository API, so now that's not with the Stash connector, but if you had like a need to automate some of those things, you can probably build a script and use the new REST endpoint that were introduced in FishEye 3.4, and basically um, automate the adding repositories from Stash to FishEye Crucible. All right. I would like to thank everyone to come on this webinar. I hope it was useful. I'm sure that the presentation will be sent to all of you, and I'll be looking forward for the next time I can talk to all of you. You have my email. I'll show it again if you want. You can. I'm happy to talk to customers all the time. So it's spted@atlassian.com. And if you want to talk to me directly or give me some feedback around the products, please do so. Like every feedback for us is very valuable. Thanks a lot for your time, and have a great day.